Today on Chat Off the Mat, I welcome Jocelyn Bates. Jocelyn is a soul artist and a soul art guide. She's a cultivator of curiosity and creativity in the human experiment, an Akashic Records guide, a yoga nidra guide, an expressive arts therapist, a master EFT practitioner, a holistic practitioner. She's a teacher, artist, writer, and a podcaster, a mama of three, a 4/1 quad right generator, a shaman, and an Aquarian. Welcome, Jocelyn.
Hello, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. In New Jersey today, it's hot again, but I had such a day off that it has refreshed me.
Yeah, it's been kind of nice. I kind of like the heat as long as it's sunny out. So it's been beautiful. I just want to tell the audience a little bit about how we've met. We've met outside of the podcasting world. We actually study under the same shaman teacher, Janet Straight Arrow, who I've interviewed for the show in the past. So that's how we got to know each other.
Yeah, I've known Janet for a long
Yes.
time. Years ago, I had a stillbirth and then I got pregnant right afterwards, and I had so much anxiety that I went to her to kind of just make sure that my pregnancy stayed. And she was friends with my mom. And so my mom had gone to her for a long time. And so I've known she married me. She blessed my kids.
I know. Janet is fantastic. Yeah, she's great. She's one of a kind, right?
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
wonderful.
I'm blessed to be studying under her. And I think one of the things as healers, as you're a healer and I'm a healer, and we have work to do. And I think that's why we go to Janet, is because we need to always fine tune our own selves, right?
Yeah.
Janet always says, if you're gonna stop doing the work, you're dead. So keep doing the work.
Yeah, well, you're never done healing. You're always working through this life.
Yeah.
And so many things like end up blocking our energy in all different ways that, we're always working to clear things and be our highest, version of ourselves.
Yeah, so we can help others, right? So let's circle back to you and let's tell the audience more about yourself and what has led you on the path of to helping others.
Yeah, okay. So I've always been on the path of helping others. I've always been on the creative path. I was just a creative kid that just kind of grew up. And in college, I went to school for expressive art therapy and intermodal and mental health counseling. And so I ended up, I actually didn't want to be a therapist, which is funny. I didn't want to be a therapist. I'd rather have been like a rebirther. I would have rather have been like a yoga teacher slash rebirther on the side, but I didn't end up doing that. And I ended up going to school and I ended up in the therapy world. Um, and of course, I ended up with teenagers because teenagers love me. I ended up with working with sexual trauma and teenage girls, and I worked in the juvenile system with boys. And I've been all over the map working in lots of different places with people, but more in a therapeutic relationship and using the arts.
Mm.
So then I had kids and I was in such it was, I was dealing with teenagers and young adults who had these things happen to them, and it was kind of awful. And so when I had kids, I was like, ooh, I don't want my kids to do anything. They're never going to date. They're never going to walk across the street. They're never going to like climb
Right.
a tree.
I
That's
hear
it,
you.
So I
Drive.
stopped. Yeah. Yeah. They're never going to drive because, oh my God. And I stopped and I became a homeschool mom, an unschooling mom. And of course I missed it. So I kept doing all of I started running co-ops and teaching classes on Outschool and like just doing this stuff from home so I could be home with the kids. And that was well and good. And I still felt like I was contributing to people. I love helping people with curiosity, because curiosity in particular and creativity together they're like a magic potion. And so a lot of times when you have like teenagers who are kind of on that, we get a lot of things from public school and all of these places. We get a lot of external rules and ways we're supposed to be, and yeses and nos, and rights and wrongs, and goods and bads. And when you can kind of break teenagers of that, it's like watching a flower blossom. So I love that work. And then I was doing that, and then my parents died 7 days apart in 2021. And I am an only child. We lived with my parents. They were like second parents to my kids. And it was totally unexpected and super traumatic. And I ended up in shock for quite some time. And And so after that, after I was able to come out of the shock, I really needed to heal myself. And I knew I had the beginnings with art therapy, with like expressive art therapy. So I had written and drawn all the way through. And I started back in with meditation. And I went to the Transcendental Meditation Center and got my mantra and I was doing that 2 times a day. And I was cold plunging, and I found human design again at that point. And there were so many things I was doing just to begin to, like, I guess, make my body a safe place to come back to. I think that's probably the best way to put it. Like, my body was not safe to come back into until I started to find some quiet and some stillness and some calm. And in that, all of a sudden, I really felt this need to connect to other realms, other dimensions, to my parents, to my ancestors. And so that journey kept going. And of course, Janet was there the whole time. She was probably one of the first people. I think I might have called her a few weeks after my parents died, and I was like, Janet, I need help. My parents died. And she didn't know. And because I didn't put it on, and it was a pretty intense session. And so there was this calling to this spiritual world happening through this. I was being visited by my parents in dreams. I was smelling them everywhere. My kids were seeing them in the house. There was all this crazy synchronicity happening. And there's so much going on that I knew it wasn't of this world. So I ended up really just jumping headlong into this journey that took me from, TM and cold plunges to human design to Akashic Records to yoga nidra to soul art. And now I offer them all. It's one of those things I always feel like I don't ever want to offer anything that I haven't fully understood and done myself.
Right.
Or
I
like
agree with
really
you.
grasp, like
Yeah.
I get it, So now I offer that. And I feel like, having gone through such an intense grief, and it's still in me, like I still have days where I'm like, you never come back from that completely. But I still have, these days, but having gone through grief the way I did and understanding now what a portal of transformation it can be, like understanding that those moments, those vulnerable, heartbroken moments actually do have a huge gift at the other side, and seeing how many people are grieving right now. I feel called to tell my story, to be out there, to help people, to inspire people to get curious and creative with not only with, like, how they create or write or perform on stage, but with their entire life, like with their spirit, with who they are, with what they want to do. So, yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No. And I know we spoke earlier, and I didn't know your story about your parents dying so close apart during COVID. And I know you shared more with me, and it was really traumatic, and you weren't able to see your mom. And, there was a lot of elements there that really added to this, like, I don't know, this shock that you experienced. And, I've recently met and have interviewed a lot of people who have transformed through grief and are now helping others. And I think, when I was thinking about this today, and I was thinking, wow, were there ever like a lot of grief therapists and counselors, way back when? I've never really heard of them as much as I have now. I think maybe with all the grief we've experienced with COVID, that was such a
Yeah.
big effect on everyone.
Yeah. And death and and grief is taboo. It's one of those things that, I never actually sought out a grief counselor. Actually, I did seek out an art therapist at one point, and it was the most horrific experience that I'd ever had. I actually, she blamed me for my parents' death and then fired me because I wasn't vaccinated. Like, talk about being a therapist.
Yeah.
Like, really crazy. So and then after that, you'd be surprised. I couldn't find a grief group that was open. I looked for a grief group for a really long time and couldn't find one. The only thing I found were some Facebook groups. And I felt like people were on those Facebook groups to, like, I don't know, vomit out something. It wasn't to heal to me when I went
Right.
into those groups. I felt like there was a lot of there. If you were, I was in a parent
Anger.
group. Yeah, anger or comparison. Like, oh,
Uh,
I lost my son. You don't understand. Like, there was a lot of that talk.
yeah.
And so I felt it was a bit unhealthy for me. There were a few really good ones, though, that really focused on coping or moving through it, which did help me a little. But for the most part, uh, now you'll see lots of therapists place grief on their list of who they work with.
Yeah.
They place it there. But I don't know. I kind of feel like grief. I feel like it's more of a spiritual journey
I do too.
than a therapeutic journey.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people, I mean, now they have like death doulas. I think that's a
Yep.
fascinating, amazing job. Like death doula is, man, if I wish I could have been a death doula for my parents. Like I wish I could have walked them through at some point, because that work is that's angel work.
Yeah.
That's
A
like,
friend of mine, she does that. She works in hospice with people and she's a Reiki master and she has just a lot of gifts, spiritual gifts, and she helps people with that. I want to talk about your soul art though, because I know your soul art is just such an integral part of you and how you express yourself and how you will help others. So I want to talk about your soul art.
oh yeah. So soul art is something I knew about when I graduated college as an expressive art therapist, or it was like a few years after I knew about it. And I was like, you know what? I'm working too hard. I don't have time to go to more classes because it's a whole certification project. Like, and I'm actually currently in my third of four certifications for it. And I decided after I went through all of my kind of a lot of my healing, and I had been through human design, and I'd gotten trained in the Akashic Records, and then I hit my wall. I had to go to yoga nidra, and I got trained there because that saved my life physically. Like I finally could sleep again and my anxiety began to just dissipate. I was like, I need the next thing, because I almost got addicted to like, oh, I learned this. I have that certification. Like I am a
It's
line
the
one
Aquarian,
certified.
but it's the Aquarian in you as well,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I am
I'm
the
like,
same way. Yeah.
okay, what's next? What's
What's
next? And
next?
then I was like, oh, soul art. I've been wanting to do this for like 25 years. So I reached out and I started that journey. And soul art it uses a lot of the same tools as expressive art therapy. But I would say the difference, and I think I've said this on a few podcasts I've talked on, is like the idea that expressive art therapy is like writing on lined paper with a pen. And working in soul art is like having an infinite amount of markers in a room with white walls. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just
Mm.
because it brings in the soul, the spirit, the highest aligned energy, because it's all coming from you. There's no therapist to bounce anything off of. You're actually bouncing it off of your own creative expression and your own energy and soul. And even if someone's guiding you, they're just doing a little bit of like witnessing and reflecting for you. So it's just a really cool journey. And soul art is like, so we work with Janet and she does these journeys. Soul art is very similar because you create an intention. And when you create that intention, like a little piece of who you are, your energy goes into that and it journeys with you the whole time.
Mm.
So you have that intention and then you create a framework. And that framework is maybe a body map or an energy map, or you might literally outline your body, right? Or you might outline a body part, right? You don't have to have like 10-foot paper like I
Right.
do. You could do it just to hand.
Oh yeah,
And then once,
you have like 10-foot paper.
yeah, I
Right.
work on like big, huge paper.
Wow.
Um, and so then you do the body, you kind of create a framework and your body map. And then you open a creativity door into creative expression, where you let go of everything you did previously and just play on a page, like you're playing on your framework. And after that, you converse and dialogue and gain the insights from your creative expression. And then you create a spirit action, and that spirit action has an ending time. So, like right now, I'm working a spirit action that is, I'm supposed to be writing the fictional story of who I am as a medicine woman. And then the last 2 minutes of that 5-minute time, I'm supposed to let my little wise elder go in and find the visions in my fiction. That's like my spirit action for 5 days. And it's over on June 27th at 10 a.m. And at that point, my energy will come back to me and we'll begin the next journey, right?
Wait, so this is a framework that is created by you and you guide people through this, or is this a framework that develops out of their initial intention and soul journey? Like that, do you have because I'm very kind of literal, like, okay, do you have a book with like, here's like step one, step two, step three, and this is what I need to do? Or does it form as you're going through the process?
So it can be as narrow and like really monitored right in the
Hmm.
lines as you want it to be, or it can be really, really open. So soul art was begun by Laura Hollick years ago, and so she runs this program. That's why so she kind of gives you this framework to begin with, and these 3 stages are in order. So you start with intention. Then you create a framework, and you could do it however you'd like. You open a creativity door, which could be anything as simple as writing or doing a collage or picking a card or reading a story. And then you just play on whatever you're going to work on. Maybe it's like a big piece of paper. Maybe it's a small 8 by 11 piece of lined paper, right? Doesn't matter. And then at the end of that expression, you find the insights in it. And then you create the spirit action. And your spirit action is kind of, it's inspired from your insight. So you take the insight that hits you the deepest. And I'll tell you something, insights in soul art, there's something special about it, because what you realize when you're going through the insight piece of it is that you realize it's all your soul talking, and this was in you all along. There comes a confidence and a courageousness with each insight that you get in a soul art, because it's all you.
Mm.
And you're like, wow, I have the power now to answer anything I need to answer. And it's very empowering. And once you find the insight, sometimes I'll have tons of insights. I'll have like a list of insights. Sometimes it's one or two. But once you find the insight that's connected to you, then you create a really tangible, doable spirit action. It could be simple. It could be like, I'm going to meditate for one day, maybe not a full day. I'm going to meditate for 20 minutes today. And that's the end of your spirit action. But it should have something to do with your insight.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a journey. It takes anywhere from like 2.5 to 3 hours to going, you could make a journey as long as you want to keep your creative expression open until you find the ending point of it. But yeah, and there's all kinds of soul art journeys you can go on. Like, so I am certified in body mapping journey and energy mapping journeys. But right now I'm getting very close to the end of a creation journey. So I'll be certified in creation journeys probably by mid-July. And then there's shaman journeys. And within each of these, there's journeys to find your soul star, your earth star, right? There's so many different journeys you can go on. And it's just amazing. Just yesterday, I finished a journey of the union of my inner child and my wise elder. And it was super fascinating.
Wow. And that just comes to you, right?
Well, these are the pieces I'm going through in the certification process. So because I'll be running these journeys, I have to go, like, every little piece I go on a full journey of.
Right.
So like, whereas like, I might be running an energy mapping journey with someone, and it uses the soul star and the earth star and the core star and the spirit realm and the earth realm. I have literally done a soul art journey for every one of those little things.
Okay.
So I've done a lot. And then as you begin to get further in your intentions, like as you begin to understand how to create an intention, and how to really jump into an intention, which is a beautiful thing to practice and to know, and how to really get the juiciest and best intentions. Once you do that, your journey could really go in many different places. It doesn't have to be visual art. I've done video, I've done photography, I've done sewing, I've done dance, so it doesn't have to stay on the page. It's just the easiest way, I think, to begin to understand the process.
Wow. Wow. It's really amazing. And so people that come to you and want to explore this, where do you see that they have blocks? Are they uncomfortable with doing something like this because it's different? Like, it's not like, okay, give me a journal prompt and let me write in my journal.
Yeah.
This is totally different. Like, I could see like people just like sticking their feet in paint and walking on the on the canvas or something, like it's real different.
I've done that.
Yeah, I know. I have a feeling you did. Yeah,
Body
I
paint.
could see myself doing that too. But I could sense like, okay, like it's something that is maybe out of somebody's comfort zone.
Oh, for sure. But I'll tell you what, as we head towards 2027, as we head towards some major paradigm shifts, like as we head that way, creativity is going to be so important. And unfortunately, we all come from a public school system that has killed a lot of our creativity, that has offered us many external rules, many internal critics who have told us yes and no, right and wrong, good and bad. It's our entire life, right? Like,
Right.
we are often cut down from critical thinking. We're cut down from being curious about certain things. We're shot down in a lot of different ways. And so, yeah, so many adults have a hard time with it. Like, I just ran an insight timer today on soul art, and I had so many people, and many people in the beginning were like, I can't do this. I can't do this. This is not me. I'm not creative, right? They're writing in. By the end of the class of just talking about it, they were all like, I'm in, I'm on fire. I feel it. Like, there's inspiration, because they just have to realize this is not them. We are innately creative. It is our birthright to be creative. We are we are human beings. We are souls living in human bodies, and creativity is how we connect to the soul. Like creativity, whether it be literally painting or creativity, sometimes we connect through our soul through a really good conversation.
Right.
And that's creative.
Even
Like
food.
food, rocks, gardening, anything. Like
Right.
even finance can be creative if, you really, who the heck came up with those financial stock graphs and stuff? Whoever that was creative. There's like candles that are green and red and
Right.
there's like it's everywhere.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I want to talk about. All right, so you mentioned 2027. Now, I wasn't aware of this paradigm shift, and I need you to talk about it because you mentioned it. So there's the gateway right to that conversation. So let everyone know because I know people are curious, and you want people to be curious. So what is that?
Yeah, so it's across, if you're into astrology, you should be able to see it in astrology. In human design, it's the paradigm shift. It's when in human design in February of 2027, we're shifting from the gate of planning to the gate of the sleeping phoenix 3. The gate of the sleeping phoenix. Sorry, my daughter is
The gate of the sleeping
3.
phoenix?
Yeah, gate of the sleeping phoenix. And so the significance of this is that the gate hasn't changed since the early 1600s. We have been in the gate of planning since the early 1600s. That's just crazy that this hasn't shifted, right? And we've been in the not self of it. We've been in it's the beautiful part of the gate of planning is we take care of other people, right? And so that's where things like banking and school system, I don't know if banking ever started that way, but the
Right.
school systems,
Industry, the school system,
right? We're going to help
corporate,
people.
right. The medical and the environment, right.
Yeah, but you see how it's turned to the not self. It's all for personal profit it really doesn't help anybody in the end.
Right. Personal
You look
power.
at a program where they send food to like what they would call maybe a third world country, right? And we have them now dependent on food that is probably hurting them, sending them vaccines that are probably killing them. And we don't
Right.
even see the actual, there's no connection. We're not seeing what's happening. We're not building the empathy. It doesn't work. We need to love our neighbors, right? So we've been in the gate of planning, in the not self of gate of planning for quite some time. And in February of 2027, we are going to shift to the gate of the sleeping phoenix, which is all about taking care of yourself and intimacy with people, not like literal, like physical intimacy is a cross, but really having intimate relationships, intimate conversations with people who are around you, who are, near you, with your family, actually knowing people, right?
Mm.
And so in February, that vibration of the gate of planning where we want to take care of everyone else just shuts off like that. And the gate of the sleeping phoenix goes on like that. And so it's a paradigm shift. It's not going to happen all at once. Like everything's not going to crumble all at once, but you do see what they say, we're midwifing it right now. And you can see it in how the school systems are rocking a little bit. They're having a little bit of their own, earthquake with all the stuff going on in the classrooms, with the bullying, with all of the, the parents and what's being taught. There's so much questioning going on. The banking system, I don't know when that's going to fall, but eventually that has to fall somehow. The corporations, you read, all of this is like the gate of planning, having this like, we're midwifing it. It's having contractions and it's not working.
Yeah.
So where we live in, a very centralized place right now, where we have to rely on people in China for medication or people in India for, whatever it is, they're not our neighbors. We're going to go to a place where we have to start relying on our neighbors, where we're decentralized. So if you think of like the gate of planning is centralization, the gate of sleeping phoenix is like decentralization. And so there's a lot of change that's going to shift. It's going to happen over years though, but that vibration will be immediately gone. So like my teacher likes to say, she goes, don't worry about it. It's just going to be like how, right. Even think about sexuality right now. Everyone gets put in these boxes.
Right.
There's very many boxes, right? And you can't just be gay or a lesbian, or there's like 15,000 boxes, it feels like, out there, right? And that's very gate of planning. When we get into the gate of the sleeping phoenix, it's like I just love another human. I just love human, right? That's where we're going. So it's actually super beautiful.
Yeah.
And then she tells you how beautiful. She goes, of course people are going to die. A lot of people are going to die, but yeah. And you're like, what? But it's, there has to be a breakdown of what was built up. So that's the paradigm shift. There's a lot, and I don't think it's going to happen all at once. I don't expect a big doomsday, but I do expect a shift in how we relate to each other, how we relate to the systems that provide for us, and how we relate to ourselves.
I see the way we relate to each other breaking down a little further because of the way we are so alienated with technology and, being at home and working from home. And there's this disconnect. And I see it with kids too. But I'm happy that there'll be a change. There'll be a transition, I'm sure. But hopefully people that will adjust, and not
Yeah.
resist. And I feel almost too, it's like that, Pluto is an Aquarius, that age of Aquarius. Aquarians are like, everybody's the same. As far as I'm concerned, you're the same as the Pope. The Pope, like if I saw the Pope, hey, Pope, what's going, like, everyone's the same.
Yeah.
And, I want to relate to everyone that way. Like
Yeah.
nobody's better than the other person. And we should all get along. There should be like a tribe, almost go back to the indigenous, like the Native Americans or
Yeah.
create a tribe where we all get along. We all help each other out. We're there for each other.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what's going to be happening, because it's like decentralization, and what's going to be important are the people in your community, and like really being a part of that. And so it'll be interesting, yeah, because right now, like, there's a lot of people who don't have a local community because their community's online across the world.
Yeah.
So,
Which is good too, because they're creating more global communities. I'm not saying that Zoom is
yeah,
bad. I'm just saying that we're isolating ourselves in our home where we're not having like kind of like one-on-one flesh to flesh conversations,
yeah, like a
um
hug.
like a hug. Oh my gosh. I went on a Reiki retreat over the weekend and up at Omega, which is close by with people there that have a whole wonderful Reiki energy. And we were hugging. I mean, like we must have all hugged each other like a million times. It just felt so good to do that,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Hugs are great.
that's going to come back. I mean, I feel like we are being pushed to the limit, and as we midwife things, people are going to be grabbing for things, trying to control things that might be in the end uncontrollable. So, I'm not worried about it. I'm not scared about it. I think it should
Yeah.
be, as long as in human design, you have a strategy and authority, and as long as you follow your strategy and authority, you'll be just fine. And
Talk
other
about
people.
human design. I think that's important maybe to segue. I don't want to interrupt you. I'm so
No, no,
sorry.
no. Well, I was just
Yeah.
gonna say, in other, it just like in astrology, like following your instincts, or,
Mhm.
however you look at it. But human design has a strategy in it. So if you go and find your free chart, you can go anywhere and find a free chart. You have You'll look at a body, it'll show you a body graph, and it'll show you two columns of gates and planets. And on like the one side of it, you'll see like your profile, your type, your strategy, your authority. It's right there. It'll be flat out for you.
Right.
And your strategy and authority really take into account your type and your body graph. So like my strategy and authority is, I'm a pure generator. That's my type. And because I'm a pure generator, my strategy and authority are um, to respond, to things. And it's sacral. So it's a sacral response. And in of that, I know that if I'm frustrated, I haven't followed my strategy and authority. Frustration is the key to let me know that it's not anger, it's not sadness, only when it's a very specific kind. For me, it's a very specific feeling, like, but it's a frustration. So
Right.
for me, and if you are, or somebody else is a pure generator, you can practice your response by simply doing sacral sessions, like asking people in your house. I forget, were you a generator? You're not a
I'm a
generator.
projector,
Projectors are,
quad left projector.
so you're not a sacral
I'm splenic.
authority. Yes. Oh, well, that's very intuitive. That's needing to
Yes.
follow the instinct immediately. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Since I was a child, was very intuitive.
That's the knowing. So whereas you're a splenic authority, right? You just know and go, right? You just know and
Right.
go. You have to pay attention. And when you don't listen, it kind of it like back up
Yep.
on you. You don't want to do that. So,
Yeah.
but for pure generators, we have to have a vocal response. A yes or a no, yep, nope. It's a sacral response. We're responding to something. Your splenic authority may not need to respond to anything. You just might have it. I have to be responding to something. And
Mm.
so when I was first working with my strategy and authority, I had my husband ask every day. I'd have him ask me yes or no questions, and I like because it feels very guttural. Some people like yep, nope, doesn't matter. But he'd ask me things like, "Are you wearing a shirt today? Are you wearing a skirt? Is it rainy out? Is it summer? Is it your birthday? Do you like pizza? Do you like the color red?" And just like constant like that, and I'd be like,
Huh.
like,
Wow.
and after a while, and then he'd throw in things like, "Do you really want to do that class?" And I'd be like, And I was like, "Oh, I don't want to do it."
Oh. So your answer came from that literal response.
Yes.
Like it was almost your innate, your intuitive answer, not your
Not your head. It goes
not
from
your
the
head. I'm pointing
sacral.
to my head. Yes.
Yeah.
Ah,
And so
interesting.
you start with the voice, and then you can start to feel when someone asks you a question, the response. But whereas your splenic also knows you don't need to respond in the same way. So you don't need to be asked a question. I need to be
Right.
asked a question. When I first found out about this, I was so funny. I was like this huge aha because my husband would always say to me, we'd go on a date night and he'd be like, "What do you want to eat?" And I'd be like, and I'd start to get frustrated. Like, why is he asking me what I want to eat? He's the man. He's the husband. He should take me where he wants to. Like, he should know what I want to eat.
Yeah, make a decision.
Right, right. But and it was frustration. First key, need to respond. Right. So when I first learned this, every time we would go on a date night, I'd be like, "Don't ask me what I want to eat. Ask me, do I want this? Do I want that?" And he would start. "Do you want sushi? Do you want pizza? Do you want?" And it made every date night so much easier. I didn't hit the point of frustration. We would figure it out in almost a minute. We would be there. We'd have a great time. Inevitably, we'd meet because when you follow your strategy and authority, you meet people that are interesting to you. You start to find opportunities. It's really great conversations. So, but that's a generator, pure generator. It's not for
Right.
everybody. Like, so
Right.
my husband's he's an emotional authority, so he needs to kind of sit on it. Emotional authority needs to they ride an emotional wave all the time. So
Mhm.
he needs to sometimes like sleep on it. And whenever he's feeling like the wave is kind of right in the center, that's when I can ask him yes and no questions. Right. So that's like an emotional authority.
Wow. It's important to, well, this is a new concept for me. I just recently came across human design. I wish I'd known about it sooner, although it's only been around since the 80s, I believe. Um, but it's just really interesting. It helps you to understand someone a little better, more than just, I don't know, it just helps you understand yourself better.
It helps you understand yourself in a relationship. I find that to be the super helpful to me because not only do you have your strategy and authority, you have your profile, which is like a line, a dash, and a line. Like I'm a 4-1. And that's an opportunistic investigator, right? So there's only like I think 12 or 13 profiles in total. And then you have these centers, which is also it's astrology, I Ching, Kabbalah,
Right.
numerology, all kind of mixed into one. And so you have the chakra system, but you have 9 chakras instead of 7. And
Right.
each chakra center is connected to a certain kind of energy that we have. So like you have either an undefined or a defined energy center. So I have like the solar plexus, which is connected to the feelings in the human design chart, right? How it's the do I have constant connection to to my feelings? And I have an undefined solar plexus. So I do not have a constancy at all to my emotions. I don't. I'm undefined there. My husband, however, is. He's defined. He has, you know what he's feeling any time of the day. And when he walks in, I have 3 undefined solar plexuses in my house. We'll all start to, if he's angry, we'll all start to get like
You pick it
fidgety.
up?
Yeah, we pick it up.
Yeah.
We
Yeah. Yeah.
magnify
Yeah.
it.
Ah,
And like, or
interesting.
if he's happy, we might all get happy. Like we're all like, woohoo. I have one kid who's defined and she's her own because she's defined in the solar plexus.
Huh.
And so she's always got her own constancy of emotion. So if I had known this when I was a teenager, man, would I have
Oh,
been
yeah.
able to change some things? Because I was in an abusive relationship in teenage years and I took on all of his emotions. If I had known I didn't have a constant energy to my emotions, or to my emotional center, like I would have known that it wasn't mine, that oh, I'm
Right.
picking this up from someone else. What a ugly hatred. And instead, I was like, oh, I hated myself that ugly, like that kind
Right.
of thing. So like it can see how you relate in relationship to other people. It's super helpful.
You're lucky though, your husband is open to understanding all of this. Some won't.
True.
So
It's
they'd
very
be like, "What are you talking about?" Well, just and so yeah, you're lucky. I think that's that's great.
yeah,
Wishing all men would
well,
be open to
even if you
understanding more
have
about themselves. Go ahead.
yeah, and even if you have like a husband who doesn't, right? So here's like one of the things I do because I know he's an emotional authority. He doesn't need to know I'm doing anything, right? And so when I need an answer from him and I need an answer pretty quickly and I can't wait over the night for him and he's an emotional response, I'm like what I do say to get a hint is I'm wondering how you feel about, and that will open up the conversation and then I can turn it into a yes no. He doesn't even know I do it. He doesn't
Wow.
know I do it. So like you can actually, if you understand the chart of your husband, you can begin to just you don't even need him to take part. You just start to understand, oh my God, he has an undefined, maybe he has an undefined will or an undefined identity center. And now you understand, oh my God, that's why he's so different around his friends and his family and me and the kids because
Mm.
he's able to shift identity with how it needs to be seen, right? So you just get to start to understand things that you might have thought were your own to begin with. Does that make
It,
sense?
it makes sense. Yes.
Yeah.
It is, I think this concept is a little new for a lot of people. I know you help people with this because you do this work for people. And I think that I've spoken to you. I think I need you to help me with identifying me so that I can, not waste my time in certain things or certain areas or be certain ways and know how to respond according to my own chart.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important to know your strategy and authority. And a lot of people in human design like to know how to follow your strategy and authority. That will lead you into deconditioning. So, like in human design, we talk about we're conditioned by society, by family, by culture, by government. Like we're conditioned all over the place, right? We're told all of these things. And it's important to decondition. And a deconditioning journey can take a while. But if you follow your strategy and authority, it can really lead you into that deconditioning path in a really easy way.
Mm.
Yeah. So just really knowing how to use the simplest pieces of human design. Cause like I can do larger, bigger charts because it talks about gates and
Gates.
channels and all
Right.
kinds of stuff like planetary things. I do gene keys, right? Like I do all that. But what I find helps people the most is just understanding the basics, like understanding what they have access to energetically, what they don't, and how to follow their strategy and authority. And some of the like bigger themes in there, because if you give someone, I think I was telling you this last time, if you give someone too much information, it's like they go for the stuff that's juicy, but that's not necessarily that the things that like I love having in astrology my Venus and Pisces. I'm like, I'm such a poet. Like, I love it. But that's not helping me as much as other things in my
And
astrology
you,
chart.
right,
Right? Right?
right, right.
So, like, I find that if people can really get a grasp of some of the simpler pieces to their chart and have someone kind of reflect it back for them so they can understand it, then it really opens up a door to go deep into human design if they want to, but to
Mm.
know those things first.
Yeah, I found out as a projector that I need to wait for the invitation. And now anybody that knows me, I'm like a go-getter. I'm like I'm out
Yeah.
there and trying to make it happen. And and then I'm like, it's really hard for me. So that deconditioning, it may take a while, and I don't really have like I'm not that patient. But yeah, so if I wait for the invitation, it doesn't mean I'm just going to sit around here at my desk just waiting for someone to pick up the phone. There's still things I can do. It's just that I'm not going against my design.
Yeah.
And that'll
Yeah.
open up more opportunities for me.
Yeah. And
Like
like
kind of like that.
knowing if you're a wait for an invitation person, you have to put yourself in places to get invitations. If you're a wait for invitation person and you're a work at home, don't talk to anybody else, and you're like, you're you're not going to get that many invitations. You have to place yourself in an environment where you're going to get the invitations that you want.
Right.
So
Right.
you still
Interesting.
have a little bit of like, you still have a little bit of like power and say in that. But
Right.
also, like projector, you need to nap. You need to take a break. You should only work 2 to 3 hours a day, which is
Well,
sound insane to most people. But
that's
that's
like
part of the conditioning right there.
forget it. Yeah, no, that's really super hard. But
Yeah.
I'm trying. I'm learning. Um yeah, so
But
all
you know, it's
right.
interesting too with the projectors. I was just reading. I'm not. I don't have many. I know very like I have manifesting generators and generators in my family, right? And manifestor. That's who's in my house. We have so much energy. Oh my god. Um, and I was just reading about projectors, and because I like to like kind of a researcher. We're talking about it before. It's my line one in human design, or my Aquarius that likes to like give me the next thing, give me the next thing, give
Right.
me the next thing. And I was just jumping like real deep dive into projector. And it's this idea that like as a projector, you almost can you can lead someone effortlessly to their strategy and authority. It's super cool. It's like
Yes.
effortless
Yes.
leading
Yes.
because you sense it, but it's
Yes.
also it's not like for a wide group of people. It's like one or two at a time, and it's like it's focused. So it's interesting.
So you'll hear me say on a lot of the podcast episodes that one of the reasons I'm doing this is to support my guests. You don't really hear me talking about my course that I'm selling or, get online for a Reiki session with me or anything like that. It's like I'm here to support you or whoever my guest is. And I'm really good at that because I really want to help people and see them succeed. And so I kind of put
Yeah.
myself behind and support people. And I think, in the end, I'm rewarded and they're rewarded, but eventually I think it will bring me to a place where I don't know, a different
Yeah.
place of supporting other people. But this is how
Yeah.
this is, and I didn't know that about a projector. And as
Yeah.
you say this,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what
it
projectors
makes sense
do.
to me. It makes sense to me. Total sense.
A lot of projectors have been placed in the world of generators where they are on 9 to 5 jobs. And is hard for a projector to do that. And they get stuck. And that's where the conditioning comes in. And so they're
Right.
like, yeah, but I have to work to make this money to do that. But projectors can have very abundant lifestyles. They're just not using their energy correctly.
Right.
Like often every business needs a projector and they don't need to be there all the time. They just need to be there for a certain amount of hours to witness, to see, to be part of. And they can absolutely guide that business to
Yeah.
its, pinnacle.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to work in HR with process improvement and I love that and consult and do that. So then I went home. That's perfect. Yeah, I want to learn more about that. We're definitely going to connect more. I want to talk about Akashic Records. That's another topic that I haven't touched yet on my episode. I know on my podcast, and I know you do that for people too. And a lot of people don't know what that is. Can you talk about
Yeah,
Akashic?
yeah. The Akashic Records are like a dimension of pure knowledge. And it's going into, the soul. So everyone has an Akashic record. Every living thing has an Akashic record. Every event has an Akashic record. You can even go into the Akashic records of relationships, um, land, homes, right? All of these things have Akashic records. But when you go into your own records, it's the knowledge of your soul from the moment it came into existence. And you have to kind of wrap your head. I just did a big podcast on Akashic Records the other day because I'm like, you have to, and as someone who really thought linearly, and I'm like, you have to change your mind over because I know we think of time in a linear way, present, past, future, however and it's like it moves forward, right? But in the Akashic records, you have to think of it as like maybe a tiny marble or crystal ball and everything swirling together at the same time. Because it's like it's not linear in the Akashic records. When you go into the dimension of knowledge of the Akashic records, you can jump anywhere. You can jump to the past lives, your present life, you can jump to future lives, you can jump into all kinds of different places. And so you kind of have to take your mind and just turn it off for a little while to consider it to be more of like a crystal or like a marble that's just spinning. It's all happening at the same time. So people don't go into the records. You know how people go to a tarot card reader and they're like, they want a divination, right? They want to know
Mm.
when they're going to get married. It's his baby's going to work out. You can't go into the Akashic records for time frames. Because it's all happening at the same time. So you can't go in there to ask that, but you go into the Akashic records to learn, to get curious, to find out how deep something runs, to find the root of belief systems, to go in and see what the possibilities in future lives are of your gifts and how to bring them into this life. Like these are the things that you would go into the Akashic records for. And in the Akashic records, you can transmute contracts, deals and agreements. You can transmute belief systems. You can untether. You can call your energy back from all your lifetimes. You can retrieve lost souls. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can connect with your soul team, with your spirit team, with your ascending masters, mentors, guides, guardians, angels. And you can receive Reiki from your angels and your spirit team in the Akashic Records as well. So anytime that you go into the records, you are getting an energetic healing. And everybody has access to their own Akashic Records. Everybody.
Right.
There was a time when you did not have access. None of us had access. And it was given back to us. The reason it was taken away is because people were going into other people's records, and that there's an integrity
Without
that's
permission.
needed.
Yeah.
Right. There's an integrity that's needed, and you need to have stated access. Like, yes, I want you to go in here. Like, I permit you to do this. Like when I go into people's records, like I have them state it. Yeah, because I
Right.
need to know. And I won't even have them stated a week earlier. It'll be right before I go into their records. Because what if they change their mind, right? Like I have to I have to make sure that it's like it's real and current before I go in. And my integrity is I run everything by that person. I'm not transmuting a contract. I'm not transmuting a belief system. I'm not changing a past life unless I know they're there and they're recreating it with me. So that's why the access to the Akashic Records was denied everyone for quite some time.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you do readings for people. So someone will come to you and say, "I'm having problems," or give me an example of what of some of the struggles people have that, and they're coming to you with help with the Akashic Records,
Yeah,
using the Akashic Records.
I've had people come to me for lots of different things from their business, because you can go into the Akashic Records of a business. And I've gone into the Akashic Records and designed like the logos and stuff for businesses just from like things I'm seeing in the Akashic Records, from colors, words, all of that kind of stuff for a business, which is really fun work to do. And I've also gone in for people who have lost people. It's not a medium. I'm not going in to read things, but to connect back to people who are gone. And like if there were other lives they were in, what kind of lessons, how can I move through this? How can we heal through this? Where else have you had grief? What are the belief systems that are beginning to seed from this grief? And I've gone in and done that work. I've also gone in for people who are having like, even marital problems. My favorite place to go into the records is for people who are women who are Gen X, because I am a woman who's Gen X. I'm 47 now, and I'm going through major changes all over the place, right? And this Gen X kind of where we are now, it's so full of life transitions. It is so ripe, the territory to really make change and to really get into who we are, that when you go into the records, it's like a limitless possibility I feel like, as a woman at this age, to go in and begin to work in the records. So yeah, to make your life what you want it to be, to figure out what you want, to figure out what you're here for,
Yeah. Wow. And you're starting to run women's circles too, right? You really
Yeah,
want to work. You work with women,
I do
right?
work with women.
Divine goddess energy. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're starting to have these circles, right? And what do you do in your women's circles?
So I just started it, and it's so funny because I haven't put the second circle up because it's the day after July 4th, and I'm like, I don't know if anyone will be able. I've been told some of the women can't make it, so I'm like, oh, maybe I should just like hold off to the next day. I should listen to my strategy and
You
authority.
should. You should. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Well, what is your
Um,
intention behind for the women's circles? Your women's circles.
Yeah, I want to connect women to each other. I feel like at this age, I need to connect to women again. And it's like because I was a parent for so long, I connected to moms, but they were like the moms that my kids liked their kids. They weren't like the moms. They weren't my friends, you know.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
like so I wanted to connect back to women who I connect with. And I also wanted to bring soul art and intention. There was something I wanted to do a while back, which was create an intention-based subscription box. But it seemed like such a big deal. And I was like, I'd rather be connected with people. So my intention is to do it as the new moon and to create a new moon intention each month. and to follow that intention and support each other through that intention. So like this last women's circle, we worked with soul art, and we did a mini soul art journey. And I walked
Oh,
everyone through a live yoga nidra first. So we went through a live yoga nidra and really went into the subtle selves and like just relaxed totally to find the sankalpa and the intention. And and then we've been supporting each other through the month of that intention.
oh, I love that.
So yeah, so it's kind of where I'm at right now.
Just the yoga nidra alone is yummy. I mean, I'm surprised anyone was able to do anything after a yoga nidra.
Oh, well, you'd be surprised. I like right before I came on here, I just did a 40-minute yoga nidra. I always feel so awake afterwards. If
Well,
you,
yeah, it does energize you. They say
yeah,
it is it's what, half an hour, right? But you're
yeah.
almost sleeping for 3 hours, something like
Three to
that.
4 hours,
Three
three to
to
four
four
hours,
hours. Yeah. I
because
would,
your the brain
yeah.
waves move through the subtle selves. And so as you do a yoga nidra, yeah, you do like a 30-40 minute yoga nidra. And I feel like I've had a 3 to 4 hour nap. And
And
you,
you have on Inside Timer, people
mhm.
can find you. Yeah, I'm going to look for you, and people, we have to put those links in the show
Yeah,
notes
I'll send
to
all
get
those
you.
to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. As an Aquarian, I know you're an air sign like me, and we're all over the freaking place. What keeps you grounded? What stops you from like being all over the place and getting distracted, wanting to do this, wanting to do everything? Like what kind of like brings you back down where you can just like, ah.
Yeah, that's interesting because I feel like so in human design, like this is my human design profile. 4-1 quad right, gate of fantasy, juxtaposition of fantasy, and the gate of fantasy is my fixed fate. Like I am meant to follow the flow at all times. Like I'm not meant to have any schedule whatsoever. It is so hard. It is so hard. But when I find that I follow the flow and I listen to the moments in front of me, that grounds me, even though it's totally not grounding. It's not like like when I have something that's every day, like I have a cup of coffee in the morning, it doesn't always feel grounding to me unless it's like calling to me that day. And so like nothing actually ever works all the time for me. I
Mm.
do find though writing and art to be, if I was to say one thing that I find and I'm called to almost all the time anyways. It's almost always my flow to go there. Is writing and art.
And art, yeah. Well,
So
I was kind of expecting that answer. It's
I mean, it's like
interesting
where
how
I'm
you,
called a lot. It's like where I end up responding to almost all the time.
yeah, that's good. I didn't realize that, you were saying about going with the flow and how I think you said to me too, as a projector or or whatever, my chart is like I shouldn't have a schedule, like or just gaps in my schedule. I shouldn't have too much or something like that. No planning for me to, something like that. And I need to learn more about that because I think it's interesting because oftentimes I don't feel grounded. And that's because I'm all in my head so much. And unless I really stop and sit down and, I'm even sitting down trying to relax and I have to have like three things around me. If one's, just to do, it's really hard to stop your creative energy once you're on once you put your mind to that's what you want to do, like,
Yeah, well,
I don't
so
know.
one of the things I was saying to you is that you need to stop doing a long daily schedule. What you need to do is create a monthly to-do list
Ah, that's
so
right.
that you can move in and out of it as you have the energy. So like
Yeah.
it's not that you don't plan, it's that instead of looking at it as a big day by day calendar where you fill in the time for each day, you just have blocks.
Okay. Yes, I
I have
love
one of
my,
those too.
yeah.
You have just like maybe one big block and you just, have a little dashes of what needs to get done because,
Like a
that
task
way,
list instead of
yeah,
like I have to do this at this
exactly.
time. Yeah, I gotcha.
Exactly. And that allows you to take the rest when you need it. And that allows you to follow your flow a little bit more. But
Okay.
yeah, no, it's a hard because I'll notice like if I force myself to try to ground, because I know how to ground. And you know what? I do it
Right.
every day. I meditate every morning. And
Right.
no, I force myself a lot of times to meditate because I know, okay, at least I'm going to center with my body. At least I'll be able to follow it better once I'm done not following it.
Yeah.
That's the insane brain that like happens with me. So I every morning I do it and I brush my teeth every morning, right? Like these are things
Yeah.
that I do. But But I will find that on days when it's not in my flow to meditate, I am fidgety. And
Mm.
so I might start to like pull over, like I might just start to get a pen or a marker and just kind of scribble while I'm meditating, or I might find myself really like, I'm like trying to be still and I'm like, I'm like stretching and I'm like, because it's not
But
in my
that's all
flow
part.
that
Yeah, but
day.
it's all part of meditating, though. I mean, moving the spine and moving the energy. I mean, I know you talk about. I know you offer like this free nervous system PDF on your website, right?
Yeah,
People say
yeah.
I downloaded it today. I didn't look at it, but when we're trying to calm the nervous system, we need to almost like move the body in order to readjust the energy within us in order to settle,
Yes.
like the dust settling. So those little
Yeah.
movements that you do and the little fidgeting, I think it's just part of how you adjust
Yeah.
internally, you know?
Where my flow is stuck. I'm just like, I'm getting it out.
You remind me a lot of me. So, I mean, I think it's part of that also that Aquarian and, it's great. Is there
Yeah.
anything you want to talk about that we haven't talked about that you want to share about anything you do?
I think you had said it earlier. What I do is I'm a cultivator of curiosity and creativity in the human experiment. And I've really been focusing on this idea that we are a soul in a human skin, in a human body. And, just speaking to the Akashic Records for a minute, before our soul incarnates into a human life, we know everything. We are light beings. We are, people that, well, I don't say people, we're souls that we don't have any questions. And I believe we incarnate into this human life to feel. And so I remind myself constantly lately to like, I'm here to feel. So if I consistently try to avoid feeling, what am I doing to my soul here, first of all? Second of all, it's okay to feel. I'm here to feel. If it doesn't feel good, it's an experiment. I constantly use that word experiment with myself. I'm experimenting. If I don't like how I feel, like if I'm feeling really sad, instead of like getting scared of that sad feeling, I'm going to get curious. Okay, how does this feel different in my fingertips? Like, how does it feel different? Okay, how might I move this? How could I breathe into this a little differently? How could I, if this was like a photograph, would it be a Polaroid or would it be a digital photograph? Like, these are weird things that go through my mind. But like, what it does is it allows me to be present in the human experience. And, and so the idea of being curious and being creative at all times and honing those two things. And top of it, like, so you hone your curiosity and your creativity. And then you just realize that both live within the body. Your body is the instrument of both. So you respect your body, you honor your body, or you use your body to gain insight into your curiosity and creativity. It's the three together make up the whole thing for me. And that's what I do for people. I help them get into their body. I help them learn how to be curious, how to widen their lens, how to open up, and how to express and let their soul express through them. And in the end, I don't try to heal anybody. I don't try to, I try to help them, guide them to heal themselves. It's not my job. It's their experiment. They should be doing it. They should get curious and creative. And I want to watch it. I want to be on the sidelines, like, yay.
I love that.
Like, I'm not here
Yeah.
to kill them. And but I know I'm here to help walk people into that process. But yeah, so that's kind of what I do. And I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
I think it's
that's
super
wonderful.
fun.
I feel the same way. People have the ability to heal themselves, and that's what we learned in our class too, with Janet. So yes, here. You do so much, and you have so many tools that you can guide people with, and I just love it. And I just want to thank you for being here
Ah,
on the
thank
show,
you for
and
having
I'm
me.
getting to know you more and more and connecting with you. It's so great. You live so close, and I want to, be more in your space and learn more from you and be guided by you as well. So I'm going to put everything in the show notes, of course, so people can find you and
Yeah.
also share in your contagious, wonderful energy.
Yeah,
Love it.
yeah. And I'm so thank you for having me because I love just talking about it. And I
Oh,
think
and you're fantastic.
the more that we talk and the more that we make it relatable and the more that like people understand like we're all in it to be curious and creative and to feel through like that's it, that's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
The more people that see that other people are doing it and they also hit roadblocks and they also have all this stuff and wow, that person's gone through grief and how did they do it? I'm going to get curious and creative over there. And like it's the more that it becomes part of life, the more that we're going to, especially in 2027, into the paradigm shift, that's how we're going to make it. Like, that's how we're going to do it,
Yeah, so we need to start the work now, and being expressive through art and through voice. That's how we heal, because I think personally, a lot of women have a lot of blocks in the way they express themselves, or not expressing themselves at all, because they may feel that no one wants to hear them. I know personally, like I'll be like, no one wants to hear my story. Like, but yeah, my stories or stories heal, or our expression or our expressive stories, whatever that is, it heals, can heal yourself and others,
Well,
even those who hear it.
there was that interesting, I saw a meme on some social media it was like an article on social media or a video, and it was like one of these young actresses who was on a show and she was crying and whatever. I didn't even listen to what she was talking about. She was like openly crying. And the meme said, this person is so amazing, not because she's an actress, because she's the first woman I've seen cry and not apologize for it. And I was like, hell yeah. Like,
Yep.
like, because
Yep.
that's what we do. We're like, I mean, I apologize all the time. It just comes out, it just flies out. Oh, sorry, I'm crying. But, I don't even mean it. It's not even, there's nothing attached to the
We have
unsaid.
to stop doing that, okay?
Yes,
Like
we have to
women in
stop.
general have, because I don't hear men apologizing. It's
No,
the women.
no.
Yes. Like we need to, be unapologetic,
Yeah. Oh, I
not
love that.
hurtful. We're not hurting other people. We don't need to apologize for everything that we do, because what we do is, there's no reason to apologize.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Uh,
Like, I love that word, unapologetic.
that was
So,
that's my word for the year, when I
oh,
was
I love
asked.
it.
Yeah, my word for the year, unapologetic.
I love it. It's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
My theme for the year, but it's changed recently because I moved through the solar journey, was like I'm rising from the ashes of expectation into abundant freedom.
Oh, I love that.
But like this idea of I think women have a lot of expectations on us. And once we put on ourselves, other people put us on, society put on us, our kids put on us. Oh, it's just so many.
We put it on us.
We
We
put
put
on
it on
ourselves,
ourselves.
right?
Yep.
All these expectations. I'm like, I'm rising from the ashes of them. That's
Love
my
it.
theme for this year.
Love it. Well, listen, thank you so much for your energy and for guiding women everywhere.
Yeah.
And let's go into 2027 ready,
With our strategy and our
with
authority.
and rising like the phoenix.
Yeah, I love it.